Hello, welcome back to Buckle Up. My name's Jasper and this is a car which I think is vastly overlooked in the family super mini segment, the Honda Jazz. The Jazz is quite a familiar sight in the UK today, but it's one I think that gets overlooked quite frequently by people looking for a family hatchback. But today I'm going to tell you 5 reasons why I think you should check it out. The first of which is styling. Now, the pre-facelift Jazz did have a bit of an awkward face on it, but I'm pleased to say that Honda have fixed this. It no longer has a bulbous nose sitting at the bottom of the bonnet. It's got this lovely diamond-shaped black plastic grille there instead. And on this trim, which is the Advance Sport, I've got a sporty grille down at the bottom, which is in gloss black plastic, which contrasts very nicely with this urban grey pearl paintwork, although it does look a little bit like primer. Another thing that I love at the front of this car is these headlamp clusters, which have got a lovable daytime running light ring around them, and it just has a little bit of a joyful face, this car, whilst still also having some sporty touches. Now, the side profile is arguably the least sporty side of the Jazz, but you do have a couple of fancy elements. So I've got contrast gloss black plastic wing mirrors and a nice sporty side skirt at the bottom. My alloy wheels here are a sport design, which is a 16-inch diamond cut faced but black painted alloy wheel. Looks very good, and the whole range of the Jazz across all of its specifications comes with 16-inch wheels. A hallmark of the Jazz is this window here, and you've got this great line that kind of bubbles up from the front of the bonnet along to quite a high roof line, but that does mean you get a lot of headroom inside. Let's see what the back's like in terms of styling to round off the first reason why I think this car is a good buy. Because this is the Advance Sport, you get a little boot spoiler, which looks great. It really sets off the back end of this car quite nicely and just gives you that extra little bit of lift. You've also got your contrast gloss black plastic, it's not a diffuser at all, but lower section of the bumper down here with, because again, this is the Advanced Sport trim, a chrome tipped exhaust. How good is that? Now, at the back, you've got a blue ringed Honda H badge, which gives you a clue about this powertrain, as does this EHEV badge down here, and then of course your little Jazz badge over there. Do you like Jazz? The rear windscreen is tinted black glass, as are the rear doors, so with those elements as well as your little shark fin antenna, which is also contrast gloss black, it looks pretty good. I think it's fair to say that Honda have done a great job of updating the styling here, keeping it pretty fresh, sharp and just a little bit sporty. Let me know what you think of the Jazz's styling in the comments below. The second reason I think this car is absolutely overlooked is practicality. So let's start with the boot. It is manually operated, but when you pop it, what you get in here is 304 litres of space, which in the Super Mini class is pretty good. And if you fold those rear seats down, it goes all the way up to 1,205 litres of space, which is brilliant. And because this car is styled like a mini MPV, it's a brilliantly boxy, usable shape. It's got a lot of height in it, you've not got much of a lip to lift things over, and back here you've got this lovely flat space. When you drop those rear seats down as well, because they are Honda's Magic seats, the base actually drops to the floor, meaning you get a wonderfully flat space to just push things through. In the boot, you've got a hard parcel shelf and 2 small carrier bag hooks. And then if you remove this black plastic optional boot liner, which says Jazz on it, you've got a couple of tie-down points in here, and then also you can lift this boot floor, and there's a good-sized cubby underneath it too. So there's definitely quite a few bits of helpful practicality back here. Let's see what the rear seats are like. Continuing the point of practicality, before I get in, I'm just going to show you Honda's Magic seats, because these being in the back of the Jazz puts this ahead of its competitors in a massive way. These seat bases fold up and then lock in place. And what that means is you can get some really, really tall objects in the back seats of this car because you get this massive void of space. Alternatively though, if you actually want the seats to fold down, as mentioned with the boot, when you do so, the seat base folds away to the floor, meaning you get this great flat space all the way from the back of the boot to the front of these seats. So that is really handy, especially if you've got a lot of stuff to get in the car. If I hop in though, let's talk about rear seat practicality, because this is such a well packaged car. Because of the high roof line, I've got plenty of headroom. So me at the princely height of 5'7.5" or 173 centimetres, I've got loads of space back here. Even if the driver was 6 feet tall, I would still have knee room and I would still have just a smidge of headroom. Now, it's not the widest of cars, so if you had a third passenger in this middle seat, which is raised and quite narrow, you might feel a little bit hemmed in. But for 4, this car is perfect. When it comes to storage of things, there's quite a few places as well. So I can pop my sunglasses in this cubby at the top of the door handle. I've got space for a 500ml bottle of water in the door card. I've got, because this is the Advanced Sport trim, or the Advanced trim also gets these, a pair of USB Type-C charge ports in the rear down here. And what I don't unfortunately have is an armrest, but what I do have is a pocket in the back of both of these front seats. So there's more than enough places to just put a few things if you've got rear seat passengers. On the family front as well, you've got ISOFIX points on both of these rear outer seats, so you can get 2 child seats back here, no problem whatsoever. Another thing you have near the top of the seat backs is a little slot where you can just drop a phone in. Well, that mini MPV shape really pays dividends up front when it comes to practicality too, because this cabin feels so airy and so large for this class of Super Mini. Honda have also gone the extra mile to make sure that you've got plenty of places to put things as well. So, like in the back, I could put my sunglasses down here in the door card. It is a bit of a shame that it's missing a sunglasses holder. That's probably the only thing it's missing though, because I've got 2 dash-mounted cup holders, one on either side there, that my 500ml bottle of water fits in. I can put that also in the door card, and then there's space behind it for something like an ice scraper. I have an additional cup holder in the center console down here. I've got a little cubby here. I've got an armrest which lifts up and has a large cubby inside of it. I've got somewhere to put my phone down here as well, just by my 2 USB Type-A charging ports and my 12-volt socket. And then I've got not one, but I've got 2 glove boxes. So actually, when it comes to places to put things in this interior, I'm spoilt for choice. In terms of adjustment for the driver, I've got reach and rake on this steering column, and then my seat adjusts for both height, backrest adjustment, and obviously forwards and backwards, so it's dead easy to find a comfortable seating position. I'd say that wraps up practicality, so let's talk about the third reason that I think this car shouldn't be overlooked as a family vehicle, and that is the interior. I didn't touch material quality in the back, but it's great. The seats are a 2-tone fabric mixture in this Advanced Sport, and yes, your door cards have some tough plastic on them, but it doesn't feel cheap, and the actual design and layout of everything up front and in the back feels premium. The mixture of materials used on the seats, from the faux leather and 2-tone fabric inserts, as well as this kind of Alcantara perforated material in the centre sections, really elevates the interior quality. I've got genuine leather on the steering wheel and on the shift lever, but the rest of this interior is a faux material, which is pretty easy to wipe clean and also looks the part too. I've got contrast yellow stitching all over these seats. I've got lovely floor mats that say Jazz on them. And then while the dashboard does have some harder areas, the bits that you touch are all really quite nice. And the switchgear has such a satisfying click to it. So interior quality is absolutely up there in the Jazz, whether you're in the front seats or in the rear ones. The fourth reason I think the Jazz is overlooked as a family car is technology. And when I say technology, Honda have got the balance of modern integration and traditional controls perfectly. So the reason I start with that is, look at this. Look at this panel. I've got physical climate controls. Woohoo! In a new car in 2024. I've got a temperature adjustment dial. I've got an auto setting because it's climate control with actual buttons. The other great thing as well, I've got front heated seats, 3-stage, which are physical buttons, and a heated steering wheel, which again is a physical button on my steering wheel. Honda have got the integration of digital features correct because all models across the Jazz range get this 9-inch Honda infotainment system in the centre, which is touchscreen, a lovely matte finish to it, and you also get a digital driver's cluster, which is a smaller display but very good at displaying information for you. The graphics on both of these aren't the sharpest, and Honda's built-in system is a little bit clunky at times, but it's very easy to use and the menu options are clear enough to make it very easy to navigate. Plus, you get wireless Apple CarPlay as standard across the entire range, and you can plug your phone in for Android Auto. The thing that Honda haven't done though is put everything in the screens. And one thing that I do really appreciate is you've still got a physical volume dial, track skip buttons, and then a home and back button to make navigating this system very easy. The other place that Honda have done a great job when it comes to tech is driving assist systems. So to talk about them, let's go for a drive. Continuing that fourth point as to why I think the Jazz is overlooked, we're still on tech, and the reason I'd like to drive and talk about tech is all levels of this car come with Honda's sensing system. And what that means is you've got a camera up above you that looks forwards to the road, detects the speed limit, recognises that, reminds you of what that should be, and you've also got their full suite of assisted driving systems. So that is front collision warning, auto emergency braking, lane keep assist, road departure mitigation, and fully adaptive cruise control with auto emergency braking. So this car is one that is absolutely capable of looking after you. And in fact, Honda will tell you that their system spots things before you do. It's that good. Now, it certainly is a very good system. It's not too aggressive with warnings for you, whether that's for speed or lane departure, but it's just there as a friendly, oh, think about that, essentially. The other thing the Jazz does really well when it comes to technology is you get a heck of a lot of stuff as standard. So all models get LED headlamps, of course you've got your automatic wipers, and all models come with the same powertrain. And that brings me neatly onto the fifth reason why I think the Jazz is an excellent car: the powertrain. So all trims of the Jazz come with the same 1.5 litre, normally aspirated 4-cylinder petrol engine. But that doesn't directly drive the wheels under most driving circumstances. Instead, this is a car that you put petrol in, but the wheels are driven by an electric motor. It's Honda's full hybrid eHEV system, and essentially what this does is it gives you the best of an EV, but with the perceived convenience of a traditional ICE powertrain. In a practical sense, what that means is that your wheels are primarily driven by an electric motor with 122 PS and 253 Newton meters of torque. This car will do 0 to 62 miles an hour in 9.6 seconds, so that is more than enough for this segment of car. That motor is actually powered by a small battery pack which acts as a buffer because you've got the engine running as a generator to charge that battery pack and provide electricity to run the motor. However, if you're doing higher speed, low demand driving, which is where an electric motor is at its least efficient, what actually happens is you get a gear that locks the engine to the drive wheels and the engine drives them directly. So that's why I'd say about this system, the engine doesn't drive the wheels except for when it does. What this means in the real world is that your driving experience is very quiet and very efficient, because the engine cuts in and out with the car going into EV mode on a regular basis when it's deemed that the engine doesn't need to run. So this means you can eke out fantastic fuel economy from this car. Honda's WLTP efficiency is 61.4 miles to the gallon, and in my week of doing some pretty aggressive driving, because I have a relatively heavy right foot and not particularly trying to get good fuel economy, I've easily been able to achieve nearly 55 to the gallon. So I'm not a million miles off the claimed WLTP, and I'm absolutely not driving it in ideal circumstances. What this good efficiency means is that your 40 litres of fuel will take you nearly 550 miles on one tank, which is amazing, quite frankly. So you've got a great powertrain and you've got some pretty good technology systems that keep you safe. What's the rest of the driving experience of the Jazz like? It's a really well-rounded car to drive, and part of that is the suspension, which is firm but not too firm, so it handles well, and despite the MPV style body, meaning you sit quite high, it does roll a little bit, but it's incredibly well controlled in the corners. Honda have got the balance just right here, with the suspension being firm and therefore the handling characteristics being reassuringly sure-footed, but not uncomfortably so. If you hit a large bump, yes, you do get a bit of clatter coming through to the cabin, but you've got enough sidewall on those 16-inch tyres that mean actually you're pretty well isolated. You also don't get too much noise coming through to the cabin unless you absolutely plant your foot or pop it into sport mode, in which case the engine revs up quite aggressively when you put your foot down. If you drop it back into economy mode though, it cuts in and out beautifully, and under all but the harshest of acceleration, you can barely make out that the engine's even there, which is great. You get a little bit of wind noise from these wing mirrors, but despite having a pretty upright profile and large windscreen, it's actually a nice and quiet driving experience. And that really is one of the big benefits of having this eHEV system. It's designed to bridge that gap between ICE power and EV power, offering you the best of both worlds, but with the inconveniences of neither. What it actually does is it drives really nicely. It's well controlled, it's comfortable, it's quiet, and it will look after you. So this car, in terms of its driving characteristics, is a really easy recommendation. That's probably enough of me talking about how this car drives. I think you can see that it's hit basically all of the really important metrics for a car in this class. So I think it's time to conclude. Well, I think it's fair to say, with the Jazz hitting the 5 incredibly important metrics of styling, practicality, interior, tech and efficiency, it's a really easy recommendation for a super mini-sized family hatchback. When you also combine that ridiculously efficient powertrain with the fact that this has pretty strong residual values, it means that despite it having a cash price higher than some of its closest rivals, on a monthly basis, it's actually a very similar price. It's therefore a wholehearted recommendation from me at Buckle Up. I genuinely think that this could be your next family car. If you have enjoyed today's video, please do let me know by liking, commenting and subscribing to the Buckle Up YouTube channel if you haven't done so already, and there are a few different ways you can support the channel if you'd like to do so. The first is our social media, all of which is linked in the video description below. While you're down there, please check out our spread shop where you can buy some lovely Buckle Up merchandise with our logo or Buckle Up plastered across it. The third and final way is you can become a channel member directly here on YouTube and give us a small monthly contribution to keep supporting what we do. That is everything for today's video, so thank you so much for watching. My name is Jasper, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!